Hey everybody, this is Blake here. I apologize if I seem lethargic. I've been working on this critiquing the critics episode nonstop, and it's not turning out well, and it's just taking out all of my energy. But I figured I'd go ahead and get this video up. Even though I'm labeling it as a Kickass of Awesome episode, it's obviously not technically that. Otherwise, I would actually show the footage and just do a voiceover, and it'd be scripted and short. But I just figured I'd just talk because it's a brand new movie that just came out, and I hope it does really well because I really liked it. I had first heard about this right after I'd seen Morantau a year back or something. I don't remember exactly when. And Morantau was interesting because it introduced me to a new art known as silat. I had never seen that style of fighting before, so that was really cool. The martial arts choreography was spectacular. It started off a little awkward, but got better and better. And by the end of the movie, the fight scenes were just amazing. The stunts were some of the most painful I've ever seen, and the choreography was really smooth, yet also pretty practical and brutal. But unfortunately, whenever the movie wanted to be more than just a martial arts movie, it failed. Whenever it wanted to be tragic, dramatic, funny, romantic, I thought it was just really clunky and awkward. So it's one of those movies that I got bored whenever there wasn't on-screen fighting, and unfortunately, even though there's quite a bit of fighting, it's not an action-packed movie. So I thought it was just really uneven. It seemed to me like the director was really ambitious and had talent, but he'd yet to have he was too inexperienced to take on that kind of project. But with The Raid Redemption, the reviews were really good, and everybody was pretty much just saying this was just non-stop action. So it seemed to me like he actually fixed his weaknesses, and that's pretty much what happened. This movie has no real desire to be anything but the most badass martial arts action film that you've ever seen. There's really no drama, character development, plot, anything of substance. It's just all action and fighting. And if that does not intrigue you, then you will not like this movie. Like, it's no surprise somebody like Roger Ebert disliked this movie because, you know, he's the type of viewer who wants more emphasis on plot and character. So if you're in that same kind of group, don't bother watching The Raid Redemption. Even other martial arts movies have more substance than this. Like even Morantau, Ong Bak, Little Big Soldier, Fearless. They're all good examples of martial arts movies that are not just martial arts movies. But with The Raid, the reason I loved it is that it just accomplishes what it wanted to be so well. The first half of this movie is almost non-stop action. I'm talking more like gun battles, explosions. But what made it really cool was the tactics used and the fact that both sides make some really inspired strategies. And it was interesting because it seemed like nobody was really stupid. And when it came to who won or lose was often determined by bad luck, really. But that made the action more interesting than I think it would have been if it was just people firing and throwing grenades at each other. But it was also the action was really well framed. I never felt like I was missing anything. I never was completely disoriented. And the editing was really tight, but not over. It wasn't over edited. There were a lot more medium and wide shots than there were close-ups, which is always a good thing. But there were enough close-ups too to keep things personal. So it's not like you're. So I felt for the characters ultimately, based on their responses to what was going on, even if they weren't really fleshed out as characters. So the director did a great job at making just a real edgy, intense, exciting action movie. But then the second half is when I really started to love it because it's more martial arts by that point. The fight scenes are really brutal, but they're also really smooth. The punches, when they miss, they seem to barely miss. Like you figure a real fight would be like when both fighters are skilled martial artists. But the punches, when they do connect, look like they really hurt. So it made the fights almost seem real, even if, yeah, it's pretty impractical. You wouldn't see this type of fighting in real life, but it's stylized, but it seems like it's believable enough. There's a lot of violence. It's really, really violent. I mean, there's bone-breaking stuff. people getting slashed with knives or other weapons, stabbed, impaled. It's crazy violent, and the violence is pretty seamless with the rest of the action. I never just felt it was CGI, even though I'm sure there was a lot of CGI used. The parts that weren't obviously CGI, like one dude gets impaled in his neck, and he continuously fights with it there. And I'm thinking, how is that attached? Because he's obviously moving around pretty quickly, and if you figure, typical makeup effect, it's going to fall out, but it doesn't. And that kind of stuff, it almost creates its own kind of substance, because you're not just watching a movie. You feel like you're watching a real badass fight scene. That real life fight scenes were as interesting as what the movies make them out to be. So I loved it. It was just it's one of those movies I'm actually going to say the substance is the style. You're watching it just to see some real badass martial arts. Great. It's filmed perfectly, and the action is really smartly done and just really exciting. But is there any real problem I have with it? My only complaint, and I guess this goes without saying, is I felt the good guys were kind of boring, whereas the villains at least had a few scenes that made them interesting. But it's hard to be an interesting good guy in movies, I noticed. Just look at the older Batman movies. Nobody remembers Batman as much as the villains. But a small complaint. And once again, if this whole concept doesn't interest you, if you want more plot and character development, you're not going to like The Raid. The Raid is just for martial arts fans who just want to see nothing but martial arts and other action scenes, at least. And but it's not like Michael Bay, where I think his movies are really disorienting and annoying. This one is just really crisply well-made action scene after another action scene. But it also is sure to slow down a little bit at parts, just so we don't become exhausted too quickly. So that's nice. And this is the perfect action film for me, even if it's nothing but an action movie. So if you want to read my written review, check the link in my description. Hopefully this Critiquing the Critics issue will be resolved soon, and I'll see you guys later.